Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Eddie Marcus here again. You know, I did a post the other day entitled I'm Poor and I'm tired of being poor. But as I think about it, I'm sure all poor people are tired of being poor. I had that on my mind this morning, so I decided to do a little checking. And I wanted to find out how the people of this country were making it economically. So I did some Google searches. What I wanted to find out was what percentage of this population was making it and what percentage were not. And so I found out that at least 50% of the people that's working and making money, 50%, if you took their household income from 50% of the people who making up to 90%, whatever that income was, 50% of the 90, if you wanted to weigh that as a scale of wealth, it would represent 28% of the wealth. If you broke that down a little smaller and say people who fall up in the category of 90% up to 99% of their income, it would represent 37% of the total wealth of the nation. If you took the top 1%, it would represent 30% of the nation's total wealth. But now if you took the bottom 50% of all people that's working and added their income up, it would represent 3.3%. Now, if you didn't have too much thought and you just want to throw a figure out there, you would say perhaps there's 300 million Americans. And you could say that maybe 150, maybe a little bit more, could take care of themselves based upon engaging in the system and receiving benefits worthy to say that you could take care of these things. Maybe 150 or a little bit more million. But the other 150 million or a little less struggling every day, trying to get some sleep at night without stress, wondering how they're going to face the next day. 150 million people. You say stuff like that. So what we're basically saying, that a system that operates like that is no good. Now, these people will say that the poor could not exist. Let's see, 150 million people are these people that represents 3%, 3.3% of the income level, that they need the brainies in order to survive. But I'm sure that these would say that the brainies, could not survive without the poor, those that they're using and abusing. So neither could survive without the other. That sounds like 150. Can't survive without the other. Then you come around and you hear somebody say, Elon Musk is tough. I think one Senator Kennedy or somebody, or congressman, I don't know what he is, says Elon Musk is tough. One of the richest guys on the planet, who did more robbing. I mean, I'm not saying he didn't do it legally. I don't know if he did it legally or not. I know some of it had to be legal. Just like everybody else is robbing us legally. You know, at 1%, you think they got that stuff honestly, morally? No, they might have got it legally, but it definitely wasn't morally. I can share that with you. Anyway, because Musk could badmouth poor people and lift up the ideas of in this country, of the white race being the dominant culture and everybody that's being beneath them in relationship to everything, God and everything, got to be beneath white people. And you believe about whatever you believe, but it got to be restricted to that which white people believe. So whatever you want to think about God, I don't care what they talk about freedom of religion. These white people saying one nation, one religion. And who tells you what their religion is? They do. Well, don't get upset. It happens in China. It's the same thing. In Africa, you got the same things going on. It's all gaming. But anyway, I would think that Musk is not what you call bodacious. He's not tough. To me, anybody that would be tough would be the person that's standing up for the people that need somebody to be tough for. So if you're white and you think you're a minority and you need somebody to stand up and be tough for you, and somebody stand up and advocate for your culture, yeah, you might think that's good. But if you got a population that's bigger than you, poor people, and somebody stands up and advocate for this liberty, this freedom from this bondage of poverty, to them, it's just greater, more important than that you're talking about. And if you had the democracy and you were voting on some issues, you would think theirs would be important, more important than what you're talking about. Yet, if there was somebody that could come along and mend them together, so the poor would be no more, and your fear would be no more, you would consider that the best job that can be done. But in order for that to even be tried, you got to step outside of that safety zone you've been walking in all the time. So I was just thinking about evil on TV, especially in these situations that deal with politics. That when somebody, especially of the Republican Party or Democratic Party, comes out and says something that's despicable, if it's evil, and I had to go back to the Republican Party because the Democrats not having to say too much right now, but just talk about the good stuff. And how these others that represent that same evil will surround them and protect them. Well, that's what it does. You got to protect yourself. If you're a monster, you got to protect monsters. Monster got to protect monsters. So if you got something that's decent, then you got to protect that's what's decent, which means all of the people out here who says that they're so wonderful people, they are not like Trump's people. They're not like the Republican people. These people went to church. They got moral values. They care about others, and that's important. Then you should think about this. If you got people out here who consider the 1%, who got so much of the economic value of this nation, and breaking it on down, then you get down to the level of half of the people, and you find out they are at the bottom suffering because of a system. And this system has perpetuated itself throughout, I guess, as long as America's been here. So you start talking about justice. You start talking about some real justice. Just think about these people who got jobs, who are stocking shelves, people who are driving taxis, people who are clerks in stores. These people are working. Now I ask you, ladies and gentlemen, these people are working 8-hour shifts just like anybody else. Now, why can't they own a home? Why can't they own the kind of cars or transportation that they desire? Why can't they have access to education, unlimited and unrestricted, and healthcare? They work. Why can't? They can't because of the system that has been devised for us to operate under. And believe it or not, for those of you who are above the pains of that, you have accepted, well, it's okay. It's okay for the pain and suffering that other folks have to go through. And then you look, because some of you, your hearts tell you that ain't right. And you listen to people who call themselves political, say they got a solution. And you listen to them lie to you. They lie to you because they know that this is what you want. They also know that the game is being played. In order for them to be able to get their message on television or radio or get it in print, they got to have money. And the people who run this show are the ones that got the money. So they're giving these folks this money to get, because you're listening to them, because they're some suave and they can talk real good. They got it going on. They can itch your ear. So they give them this money so they can go before you. And you say, oh, they represent you. And then you go there and vote for them, put them in office, and they're not thinking about you. Because ever since they've been in office, you've been going through the same stuff. Nothing to happen. But they still getting that money from those same people. And you keep voting them in over and over and over again, thinking you're going to get something different. because you don't know the game that's being played. So the reason you don't know the game that's being played is because perhaps to a certain degree you are benefiting from it. You are parts of the upper numbers. And you, by evidence of these people still working and still can't survive, or people who don't have jobs, that is evidence that you are a crook. Now, let me tell you something. I talk about being poor, but I'll tell you this. I am poor by choice. What does that mean? That means that I've been in a position to make money just like you. And I could still, I don't know, I might be a little old now, make money just like you. But I needed to know for a fact, even though I grew up in poverty, I needed to know for a fact why poor people won't stand up and slap you side your face with resistance. But without that experience, you don't know. All these folks out here looking at poor people, they got an idea that poor people ain't got no sense. That poor people are lazy. That the worst thing that you can think about people, that's why people are poor, because this is what they're engaging in. And that's a bona fide lie. This poverty exists in this country and all over the world because a scam artist has designed it this way, to take advantage of this way. If you think I'm lying, just think for one moment. When you need some farmers, or need somebody to work the farms, who do you get? You bring the Mexicans over. Why? Because the Mexicans will work cheaper than the people here in America. You're exploiting their labor to give you a profit. You're exploiting their labor so you can rip over the people here who refuse to work for those little wages because they're smart enough to know that you're wrong. But they have to go through all of these changes trying to stand up. But because they won't stand up and tell you, you got to make the change. And you got to make the change that work for everybody. You don't make no changes that... I remember, let me just say this. I read something about South Africa. Or maybe I saw it on the internet. And they were talking about Mandela and what was going to happen when Mandela became the voice, the man sitting in the seat, or at least the seat that everybody thought was the seat. Well, it was supposed to lift black people up. And in certain places, it did. But at the same time, there was another response. And that is that there were white people who were doing all right at one time. But with the system that they instituted, and I said they instituted, they made a change, but the system that they instituted made sure that there were white people who were doing okay at one time, now knowing just as pitiful as black folks was doing in their time. Now, is that right? I mean, you might say that's justice, but is that right? Is that the best thing you can come up with? Is that when you start talking about affirmative action in America, you're talking about causing, taking a little of the joy that white people have been experiencing and giving a little bit of it to the black people and letting white folks suffer a little bit less, a little bit more for the benefit of black people? Is that the best stuff you can come up with? Y'all got to be out of your mind. You settle for some stuff like this. And when I talk to you, I know the things that I say to you, to me, they're so magnificent. I say they come from God because I don't think I'm smart enough to come up with anything like that. But I'm hearing now most people don't even believe in God. They think there isn't no God. So all I say is this: when it comes down to God, I look at power. When it comes down to God, I look at the ability to do things that human beings cannot do. And it appears that human beings apparently cannot come together and work this thing out so we can have a life on this earth as if though we are listening to a power that cares about us and took our us off the throne. I guess I might have said a little bit. Anything else? Well, all I want to say in my closing is there's a lot of talking and pointing fingers. But all I can say is this, is the pain and suffering is out here. And as long as it is out here, you can stop pointing your fingers because everybody is responsible. Leave it there. Talk to you later.